Hi, welcome to the first episode of season 2 of The Lab here on Good Cube Kitchen. My name is Yassine Butler, and thank you so much for joining me. Happy New Year to everyone, and happy Valentine's Day, which is soon approaching. And so I set out to decide what am I going to make for my Valentine's Day season opener. I went crazy in the store and I grabbed lamb and I had steak and I had all these really great expensive items, and I stopped and I thought, who am I cooking for? And when I thought about the people who ask me questions and I thought about the people who's actually gone and made the food from the episodes, I realized that in the middle of a pandemic, you're not spending $50 on a rack of lamb. You're not going out and buying $30, $40 steaks. Right now, you're looking for something simple, easy, delicious, that still shows whoever you're making it for that you care. And so this week we're going to get into the Cornish hen. It's one of my favorite little birds. It tastes delicious. It looks much fancier than it costs. And the entire recipe takes an hour for dinner and another hour to make dessert. So it's completely easy, simple. You can spend more time with the person you love on Valentine's Day than you do slaving away in the kitchen. So let's get started. We all know the adage not to start with dessert, but when we are baking, you always want to start with dessert so that it can cool. So you're going to make up a third cup of buttermilk, which is just milk and vinegar. Then you're going to combine 3/4 cups of flour with an eighth cup of cornstarch and an eighth of a teaspoon of baking powder. Whisk your dry ingredients together so that they're nice and combined. Add a splash of vanilla to your buttermilk and begin to whisk together your brown sugar and an eighth cup of butter. While you're whisking your brown sugar and your butter together, you're going to realize that you probably should have started with a high walled bowl so that it doesn't make a mess. Then you're going to combine one egg and an egg yolk together, whisking together until nice and smooth, and then you're going to combine over your buttermilk. As you can see, I forgot to compensate for the smaller recipe and used way too much buttermilk. This is why I'm going to end up abandoning my original design and finish it off with a parfait with the sliced up remnants of my final product. If you, for some reason, put too much liquid, you can combine extra flour in to combat how wet it is. Now you want to add your flour and oil in stages, combining them a little bit at a time so that one, you don't make a big mess, and two, you don't overwork your batter, trying to incorporate everything nice and moist. As always, you want to make sure that you scrape down the sides of your bowl so that you don't have any lumps of flour or sugar that need to be incorporated. Using the same trick from a previous cake episode, you're going to make sure that you use your butter wrappers to grease your pan. Then pour your batter into a small square pan. Once you've gotten it all in the pan, you want to make sure that you scrape around the sides of your bowl, not wasting any, and then you're going to smooth it out. Now this smoothing part is very important. You don't want an uneven round for this process. Once you spread it evenly and give it a little shake, you're going to make sure you put it into your oven, which has been preheated to 350 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Now we're going to make a simple custard. It's the same recipe that we use for making ice cream. You're going to combine 1 cup of milk plus 1 to 2 tablespoons of milk with 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, and 2 egg yolks. You're going to make sure that you temper your egg yolks before you combine your cornstarch slurry. That just means taking some warm milk, whisking your eggs until they're nice and beaten, and then combining it back into the larger pot. That way the eggs do not curdle or scramble. Then you're going to combine over your cornstarch slurry, and you're just going to keep stirring until it thickens up. You may need to turn your heat up if it's taking a little bit longer than you expected. This is a new pan for me, so I haven't quite mastered the heat transferring for it. Once it starts to thicken up, remove it from the heat immediately and continue to stir. That way you don't form any lumps. Because this is going to be such a important dessert for someone you care about, just pass it through a decently sized mesh strainer. It doesn't have to be super fine, because unless you feel like you've made it really lumpy, it should all pass through pretty easily and you won't have any small lumps. You're just trying to make sure you don't have any giant ones. You want to pop your custard in the refrigerator so it can cool while you prep dinner. Now to make a simple marinade for our vegetables. I'm going to combine about 1/2 cup of olive oil or some other good flavored oil. Then you're going to add in some onion powder, some garlic powder, some sage, cumin, a little bit of nutmeg, and salt. Very simple ingredients. Now you could use any combination of ingredients that you want. If you like a different herb combination, go ahead and do what you like. I picked these herbs in particular because they really speak to me when it comes to this cold weather that we're having. They're warm, but not Christmassy. So it gives you that great warmth in your palate without being too overpowering of the initial flavors. Later on, I'm going to squeeze over an orange in here because I completely forgot. It is going to give us a little bit of brightness to everything so that it's not too heavy, but it's also going to give us a little bit of sweet to balance out all of these savory flavors. Now to prep our mushrooms. All the rest of the vegetables have been washed, but you really can't wash mushrooms in advance because the more moisture they have, the more fungus that can grow on them. And so all you need to do is dip a paper towel in a little bit of water and just rub the tops to make sure there's no excess loose dirt. Now we're going to peel our butternut squash. And this is super simple using a vegetable peeler. You could use a knife, but I suggest getting a vegetable peeler. Even a cheap one from the dollar store will work for this process. Might not work more than twice, but it'll work once. So you just need the top part. I couldn't find a smaller one, so I'm only going to cut off the top 3/4 of the butternut squash. And then I'm going to quarter it and then slice the quarters into 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch rounds, something where in there. Make sure you get all of the exterior off because it's just kind of unpleasant in the mouth. Once these are nice and sliced, I'm going to add them over into our marinade. If you only have orange juice in your refrigerator, then you're looking for an eighth to a fourth of a cup of orange juice. That's why I'm not squeezing this super dry, because I only want a little bit to brighten the flavors. Like I said, combine over your vegetables, and then you're going to slice your pear. I don't like to peel most fruits because the peel has good vitamins and nutrients that you need, and it gives a different bit of texture. But I do want to make sure that I core my pear, because that core will be just as inedible when it's cooked as when it's raw. So I want to make sure I get in there, peel that out, make sure I don't have any of the seeds in there, and then I'm just going to slice these. Once they're sliced, you're just going to combine them over into your marinade and then begin working on the next vegetable. So I'm going to slice up my red and orange bell peppers. No particular kind of slice. You can make them as chunky or as thin as you want. Now I'm going to use two different methods to slice these. I'm going to use the method that I normally use, which is just to slice it, pull out any of the ribbing, and then just layer them on top of each other and chop them. But with the orange one, I'm going to use one of those internet methods that I've seen that I've never tried before, which actually worked out. You can rotate around your pepper and cut it into segments, completely skipping the ribs on the inside, and you basically end up with the ribs still connected to the stem, which is really kind of cool. I do feel like it leaves a little bit more waste on the pepper than I would doing it the other way, but if you're not super frugal with how you use your vegetables, I could see someone doing this on a regular basis. Will I do it again? Not 100% sure. Maybe if I'm in a rush and I just want to get them chopped up real quick and I'm not really worried about how much pepper is left in the process, then possibly. But I don't really think it's for me. It's a little bit less work, but... So now that those are combined in our marinade, then we're just going to slice our zucchini in half and then slice it up into nice 1/4 inch sized half rounds. Combine all of those over into your marinade. Don't forget your mushrooms. I forgot my mushrooms, so that's why I got a little bit of stirred first. But maybe not putting your mushrooms in it first might be a good thing. Mushrooms are really fragile, so you don't want to over stir them. Once everything is nice and coated, start working on your Cornish hens. You want to pat them really dry before you season them. I like using my silicone mat, which I finally just got, because it gives you the flexibility to use your entire workspace without having to worry about whether or not you're going to get anything anywhere. Now you want to tuck back your wings. Because these wings are so small, they will burn. Now, if I were thinking, which I wasn't, I would have gotten some twine to truss the legs, which means tying them together so that they sit up and they cook in that really nice, cute position. I didn't do that. So now we're going to season our Cornish hens with some salt, some onion powder, some garlic powder, some cayenne pepper, and some thyme. The flavorings are similar to the vegetable marinade, but the little bit of difference gives you a bit of differentiation in your flavors. You want there to be different levels and layers of flavors. Something to make you go, when you taste one bite, and something to make you go, when you taste another. I like to get my hands really in there and just massage these birds. I want to get all of that love and energy and effort into making sure that every bit of the surface is going to be nice and flavorful.
While the cake is cooling, the custard's also in the refrigerator cooling, and so I'm going to make the final dessert after everything is nice and cool.
Pro tip from post production that I didn't do: preheat your casserole. A nice hot casserole will make the vegetables cook better. You're going to make a small well for each of your hens, and you're going to take them, put them in those small wells, and then pop the entire thing in the oven for about 55 to 65 minutes until it reaches an internal temperature of 165. Now we're gonna make one of my favorite recipes, boozy strawberries. So you're gonna take equal parts brown sugar and red wine, something really cheap, sweeter the better. And you're going to basically just make a simple syrup, and you're going to add over it a few splashes of cayenne pepper. Then you're going to slice up some strawberries. Mandolin works better, but however you want. You're also going to leave some of the strawberries nice and whole for your topping. Take a handful of those strawberries, throw them in and let them poach. Once they're really nice and soft, then you're going to blend them. You can either do this with a blender or a hand mixer. Then you're going to pour your boozy strawberry simple syrup over your strawberries and let those sit and cool for at least an hour. Now to make the salad. Super simple. Green salad. You're going to put a quarter of a cup of olive oil, a quarter of a cup of your choice of vinegar, and then a quarter of a tablespoon of ginger paste. You're going to whisk this together, and then at the end put a little bit of onion powder in there just to give it a little bit more flavor. Slice up half of a red onion, nice and thin. Lay it out over your salad. Then I like to slice my tomatoes. I think there's nothing less sexy than chasing down a stray tomato on your plate, but if you slice them in half, nobody's got to fight with their tomatoes, and it just makes dinner better for me. Now on to dessert. As you can see, I originally made some rounds, but because I put too much milk in my batter, it doesn't taste very good. But one thing about a carbohydrate, if you get it caramelized enough, it will taste amazing. So I'm gonna slice these into about 1 inch sections, and then I'm going to toast them in my air fryer on 350 for about 9 minutes. Now, if you don't have an air fryer, you can put them in a pan, preferably on a rack so that the heat can still circulate around them until they're nice and toasted, maybe 15 minutes in a regular oven on 350 or 400. Now to plate. I'm going to take one of the strawberry slices and put it on the bottom, and then just encircle the entire bowl in our nice boozy strawberries. It's gonna look super fancy. Shout out to Rie. Once you get your strawberries all around your bowl and it's looking just lovely, you're going to take your custard, which should be cooled by now, and you're going to just scoop it into the middle. Maybe 4 or 5 tablespoons altogether, or one small ice cream scoop on the bottom. Now you're going to take your 1-inch toasted sections and you're going to put them all around the sides to make a next layer. Once your layering is all done with your cake bites, you're going to make sure you put one in the center to give you a bit of a foundation for your next layer of custard. This next layer of custard should be one more scoop, maybe a scoop and a half at most. You don't want to have the custard too high out of your bowl. You just want it to be just enough to cover that top layer of cake bites. Then you're going to take one of your full-size strawberries and you're going to plant it right in your custard. Now, one thing that you could do that I didn't do is slice the tip off of this strawberry before you put it on the top. By slicing the tip off, you have a nice flat layer that you can then use to plate one final cake bite to give your final plating and masterpiece some height to it. I think it looks pretty cool. It gives it a very artistic type expression. Using a little bit of the custard as glue, I'm going to secure it, and it honestly stayed on there for a while. Well, this is a Valentine's meal to remember. You have a bomb dessert, you have a simple, delicious, and actually healthy main course, a delightful homemade salad. What more could you want from Valentine's dinner? Thank you for joining me here on the first episode of The Lab in Season 2. I promise to bring you more episodes every week, and I'm also looking to do some additional kinds of content to help you to develop the things that you want to develop, those basic cooking skills that you asked me about. So, as always, thank the good Lord for good food and good times. All that good is good cubed. Thank you very much for supporting. Have a good one. Peace.